Okay, so good morning and welcome to those in attendance at the remote meeting of the local review body of Aberdeen City Council. Please note that the meeting will be recorded and published online to public access after the meeting. You are also reminded to note that we may have members of the press or public observing today's proceedings. Can I ask those who are observing today to keep their microphones and cameras switched off throughout? Can members of the local review body leave their cameras on but mute their microphone when not speaking? As the local review body contains quasi-judicial business, members are reminded that they should not leave the meeting during consideration of any of the reviews. This meeting has been convened in response to one request for a review of the decision taken by the appointed officer under the Council scheme of delegation. Members of the local review body have before them copies of the review documents, as listed in the notice calling the review. I will now ask Mrs McBain, the Assistant Clerk, to outline the procedure to be followed in the conduct of these reviews and to take a roll call of all members present.
Thank you. Just please indicate that you're present. So, Councillor McGee.
I'm present, finally.
Councillor Copeland.
Here.
Councillor Farquhar.
Here.
Councillor Thompson.
Present.
Thank you. So members have the procedure note which was circulated with the meeting papers and is intended to set out the wider framework within which the review process operates. The first task for the review body is to come to a decision on whether the review documents contain sufficient information for the case to be determined without further procedure, and by that it is meant without further information or representations. The regulations governing the LRB process require that all matters which the applicant intends to raise in the review must be set out in or accompany the notice of review. The focus of the review should be on the basis of what was before the appointed officer when a decision was made, and only in exceptional circumstances will new or additional matters be permitted to be taken into account. The circumstances in which additional matters can be taken into account are set out in the legislation and will be addressed by the LRB advisors where relevant. This review should take the form of a structured discussion led by the chairperson to consider the matter set out in the notice of review before you, and I would conclude by drawing your attention in particular to points 10 to 12 of the procedure note. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, turning to consideration of the review in respect of a decision to refuse the application for detailed plan permission for the erection of external canopy to the front of the building at lower ground floor level, which is retrospective at Amuse Restaurant, 1 Queen's Terrace, Aberdeen, planning reference 260044. We will now hear from the planning advisor in attendance, Ms Lucy Green, who will provide us with a brief description of the application proposal and a reminder of the reasons why the application was refused. I would point out to all that Ms Green attends today's meeting to provide us with the necessary professional planning guidance because she's not been involved in the earlier consideration of the application under review. Ms Green will not, however, be asked to express any view of the merits of the proposed development, and in effect, her role will be a neutral one involving the provision of factual information and guidance only. Ms Green, over to you.
Thank you. Morning, members. So this is a review into the application for the erection of the external canopy at 1 Queen's Terrace, as mentioned. And the applicant submitted all the necessary information within the time limit, although attempted to submit some further information late, which I'll come to. So the applicant indicated on the notice of review that there were no new matters within the submissions. And in terms of procedure, the applicant expressed the view that there should be a site visit and opportunity for further written submissions. So I'll continue and provide some further background to the case before handing back for members to decide how to proceed. So this is the site location plan. Queen's Terrace and Ruberslow Terrace set behind the gardens here. And this is the site at number 1 and the largest site plan. So the application premises are at basement level, accessed here. And the canopy in question is over this area of the basement light well. It's category B listed building and lies within the Albine Place and Ruberslow conservation area. And that's just from Google Street View. It's a retrospective application and the canopy is in place just here. So you can see the entrance to the restaurant here. And this part's covered by the canopy. and it's fixed to steel uprights, which you can see one of them there, just fixed into this low granite wall behind the railings, and then fixed back into the granite frontage of the building. So I'll come to the drawings.
I didn't
on
know.
that. So these are the elevations as was existing and as proposed with the canopy in place there.
By the reaction thing.
And then
To kind of understand.
side elevations of the canopy. Here on the other side. And then this is a cross section showing the fixings. So the poles into the granite wall at the front and then back into the building.
You see,
And
we're getting a little bit of feedback from the room behind you.
right, okay, just let me see if I can alter the settings.
No worries.
One moment. Right. Hopefully that will be a bit better. Background noise suppression was on, but yeah, hopefully continue, but let me know if there's any more background noise. Okay. So the canopy is canvas in a light grey. And as I mentioned, fixed by metal pins into the wall, supporting the railings in the front of the building. So in terms of planning history, there were two previous applications for listed building consent and planning permission, which were refused in October last year. And the canopy has been up since the summer of 2025. And there's also a listed building consent that accompanied this application that's at review, and that's been appealed to the DPA. That's the link there to the case. There's no outcome to that case at the moment. It's been allocated to a reporter. Reasons for refusal are that the canvas canopy and structure that's been installed to the front of the building is of a utilitarian design and is prominently sited, cutting across and obscuring public views of the historic architectural features of the building, which contribute significantly towards the character, architectural and historic interest of the listed building and the character and appearance of the conservation area. And the structure harms and thus fails to preserve the special character and interest of the listed building at 1 to 10 Queen's Terrace, the setting of the adjoining listed building at Rubislaw Terrace, and the character and appearance of the conservation area and the West End, contrary to the aims and requirements of policies on historic assets and historic environment in the local development plan and national planning framework, as well as the zoning policy, which is the West End area policy in the local development plan, and also historic environment policy for Scotland. And it also conflict with the technical guidance in the managing change guidance on external fixtures and shops and signs. So the applicant's statement of review, which was quite a brief statement that came in on the notice of review, but it highlighted that canopies required for shelter in inclement weather, and that it's a covered space used as breakout for diners who wish to smoke and also the elderly. And the applicant requested the opportunity to provide further comments and to attend a site visit. So I've just noted there that the regulations don't actually allow for information to be submitted after the initial submission of the notice and review. And that just sets out the regulations there. So I'll just move on to the objection. There was one objection which made the point that the canopy was erected in the summer of 2025 and refused permission in October 25, and they request that enforcement takes place. And there were no comments from the Community Council. So at this point, I'll hand back for members to decide how to proceed.
Thank you very much. We now need to consider whether we have sufficient information in front of us today to take a decision on the application. Members, a reminder, if you do not feel you have enough information to take a decision, you can request for further written information to be provided, hearings to be arranged, or a site visit to be undertaken. We'll quickly go around the room. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I feel that we've got enough information to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Copeland. Councillor Copeland, you're on mute.
I'm happy to proceed with the information we've got, and I don't feel a site visit is required.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thacker.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you very much. I'm in agreement. So therefore we have sufficient information to proceed. Therefore we'll turn back to Ms Green, who will take us through the relevant policies and procedures.
Thank you. Okay, so these are the policies from NPF 4, which I'll go through in the following slides, and then also Historic Environment Policy for Scotland and the Managing Change Guidance. So first of all, policies 1 and 2, which are relevant to all applications, with significant weight being given to the climate and nature crises and climate mitigation. And similarly, policy 3 is also relevant and states that proposals should contribute to biodiversity with local development, including measures proportionate to their scale and nature. Policy 7 on historic assets seeks to protect and enhance the historic environment and to enable positive change. And it states that in paragraph C, proposals for alterations to listed buildings would only be supported where they preserve its character, special architectural and historic interest and setting. So development proposals affecting the setting of listed buildings should preserve their character and special interest. And similarly for conservation areas, development proposals affecting conservation areas will only be supported where the character and appearance of the conservation area and its setting is preserved or enhanced. And considerations are the architectural and historic character of the area, the existing built form, and the context and siting, the quality of design of proposals and materials. And then also proposals in conservation areas will ensure that existing built features which contribute to the character of the area and its setting, including structures like boundary walls, railings, etc., are retained. Design policy, which is similar in this context to the policy in the local development plan, is the 6 qualities of good design, and in particular distinctive I've highlighted there, which looks at local architectural styles and also adaptable, looking at the long-term use of buildings So it states that proposals that are poorly designed and detrimental to the amenity of the surrounding area will not be supported. And this is Historic Environment Scotland's policy. Two of the policies on change here. So decisions affecting this historic environment should ensure that they're based on the thorough understanding of the assets and enjoyment, as well as its benefits, and that they're secured for present and future generations. And then HEP 4 states that changes to specific assets and their context should be managed in a way that protects the historic environment. And there's some of the core principles on managing change. So taking a long-term view and reflect on the understanding of the wider environment and the asset in question. And looking at the managing change guidance notes, which are mentioned in the report as well. This is from the external fixtures managing change guidance. And it sort of highlights the potential for incremental damage by fixtures and the fittings into the actual building. And then their siting, so that they are sited to minimize impact on the architectural integrity and fabric of the building. And it mentions secondary elevations as possibly being able to accommodate those features without impact. And this is from the shop fronts and signs managing change guidance, which states that modern fixed canopy blinds are not a traditional feature of the street scene and will rarely be appropriate on listed buildings and also on unlisted buildings within conservation areas. And it states that even where there may be practical reasons for a canopy, fixings that cut across architectural details or sit uneasily against the form of the entrance or surrounding facade should be avoided. The local development plan policies, these are the relevant ones, and the sites zoned within the West End area under policy VC6. And then design and historic environment policies are also relevant, as well as the character appraisal for Albine Place in Rubislaw Conservation Area. So looking first at policy VC6, the first part of the policy talks about uses that are, so it's not so relevant, but it just highlights that all proposals must respect the historic and architectural character of the West End. Design policy, similar to the policy in NPF 4 in this context. And again, it emphasises quality architecture. And policy D6 on the historic environment, which seeks to protect Aberdeen's historic environment. And in particular, the paragraph that's highlighted there, appropriate developments, including new features and fixings, must be designed to respect the character, appearance and setting of the historic environment and protect the special interest of listed buildings and conservation areas. So that's looking at the section of the conservation area in which the site falls. So it's area A within the conservation area, and the site's just here. And it's showing the category B listed building. That's one of those is Queen's Terrace, and one of those is the Rubislaw Terrace. That describes this section of the conservation area, highlighting the formal parks of Rubislaw Terrace Gardens and Queen's Terrace Garden. which occupy the majority of the south side of the character area. And to the north sit Rubislaw Terrace and Queen's Terrace. And the two terraces comprised of Scots baronial and classic detailing are two of the grander terraces built during the 19th century, in contrast to the plainness of the surrounding streets. They're accessed by granite steps. The buildings comprise 2 stories, basement and attic in granite and slate, with bay windows that run from basement to first floor. And then it also just highlights that the terraces are set back from the street with island railings running along the length of the street. So this is just taken from Google, showing the Queen's Terrace, and this is the application premises here. Rubislaw Terrace extends that way. So in terms of the special character and interest of the listed building, the descriptions state that it's largely derived from its relatively unaltered front elevation with regular full-height bay window projections that extend down to basement level. And the principal elevation of the terrace is set back approximately 2.5 meters from the pavement, with the front doors elevated above street level and each with their own set of granite steps and entrance plats which oversail the basement light wells below. And the basement levels and entrance plats are all enclosed by traditional black painted cast iron railings, with the railings forming the pavement and being of ornate design. And the recessed frontage of the buildings with basement light wells, black metal railings and full height bay windows form a key part of the listed building's special architectural and historic interest. And it states that the Queen's and Rubislaw terraces with their gardens are one of the finest examples of 19th century aristocratic domestic Aberdeen architecture. So finally, just a reminder of the primacy of the development plan and that all applications should be determined in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise, and each application being treated on its own merits. So in this particular case, the matters for consideration: does the canopy preserve or enhance the special character of the listed building and the setting of adjacent listed buildings? And does it preserve or enhance the character and appearance of the conservation area and the West End? And does it comply with the development plan as a whole, or are there material considerations which weigh for or against? I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. It's a question for myself in relation to the sort of street sites along the frontage there. Is there any other buildings that have any sort of canopies attached to it? I can't recall off the top of my head being along there recently. I think this may be the only one.
Yes, I mean, I can go onto Google Earth if you like and just look along the street. Just delayed reacting. So there's the canopy. This is along Queen's Terrace. So there are some signs and things, but no other canopies. It's number 10 at the end there. Along Rubislaw Terrace.
Yeah, it certainly does stand out a little bit. Any other questions from members? Okay, I've not seen any further hands. Okay, members, in accordance with the procedural note circulated, the local review body will now discuss and decide the manner in which the review is to proceed. I would highlight that all representations relating to the case have now been considered, and taken into account. Members, I am minded to uphold the officer's view on this one. I think it's pretty clear in terms of our planning guidance, especially where it comes to canopies. They should be sympathetic to the area. This is quite utilitarian. It is sort of disrupting the sightlines if you're to look along Queen Terrace. I think this was pretty clear cut to me, but we'll go around the room. Councillor Thompson.
Right, I'm muted now. Yes, I'm of a similar mind to yourself. It is one of the most prominent terraces in Aberdeen, and of an architecture that is quite local to our area. And I just feel that this canopy does not respect that. And as public servants, I think we do have a duty to ensure that the character of something that is a listed building and also in a conservation area is retained for future generations. So yeah, I am inclined to uphold officer's decision as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Copeland.
I totally agree with you. Uphold the officer's decision.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thacker.
I'm kind of on the opposite side of the fence. I don't think it looks too bad. I think it looks quite well designed, and being a basement unit, it's really quite difficult to see from, unless you're kind of right there. And if it's something that increases the usability of a unit, we're plagued by empty office units and empty premises across the city. So anything that increases the usability of a space for a business, I'd look favourably on. But I feel like I'm outnumbered on this occasion. So yeah.
No worries. Thank you very much, Councillor Thacker. Therefore, where am I? Therefore, the local review body has by majority agreed to uphold the officer's recommendations, and the applicant or agent will be updated in the forthcoming days. Thank you very much, members. That takes us to the end of today's meeting, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. I'll stay online.